Good evening, and high tide was several minutes ago, and it seems like it's getting higher. Anyway, welcome to Aotearoa Bay. It is a tiny little bay here on the Coromandel Peninsula on the North Island of New Zealand. Here to shoot some sunset. And let me turn you around, show you what we're looking at. We've got this little peninsula of rock here. We've got some clouds, and it looks like it could be a decent show. Yeah, so stick with me. I'm going to have some sunset photos. I'll do some processing, and yeah, I'm not sure high tide was at 8 o'clock. It is now 8:24, but it seems to be getting higher instead of lower. Anyway, we'll see what we can do. Stick with me. Like I said, sunset photos. Hopefully those clouds up there light up. We've got some layering in the peninsula. Might put on telephoto lens and see what we can do there. Yeah, and maybe do some detail work as well. We'll see what we can do. Thanks for joining me. My name is James, and let's get to it. Turn you around here so I can show you what we're looking at in the camera. Same thing that I just showed you. Got the peninsula, got the waves, got the clouds up here. I've got a polarizer on. It's not doing too much because of the direction of the sun. And then we've also got a 6-stop on there, giving us 1 second at f11. That's slowing down the waves, giving us some spread. 2-second timer, although I'm not sure why. It's quite windy. So actually, let's make sure stabilization is on. Stabilization is on. Yeah. Let's take a look at this. My clouds are kind of dissipating up here, so I think I'll try some intentional camera movement. They're kind of turning you around so you can see. They're nice and orange, but they're dispersing and they're all around. So I've got the 6-stop filter on again. It's at f10, 2 seconds. And I've got the rotational gear on the Benro 3-way unlocked so that I can just rotate back and forth. I got it set up so it's perfectly level and keeps my horizon line level, and it keeps a nice crisp horizon line even though I'm doing intentional camera movement. So we'll take a look at that and see what it looks like. Tell me what you think. We are back in the studio now, so let's take a look at that first image that we shot on the beach and see how it was processed. I always have in my Lightroom these panels set up in the order that I do things. So I always correct my lenses first, and I just tick both of them and make sure I go to the right lens. I know that I was using my Sigma, so lens correction is done. Then I go to calibration, and I'm going to set calibration where I like it for what, oops. For the Lumix S1R, and get that done. And now I'm in the basic panel. And looking at my histogram up here, I'm a little dim, so I'm going to increase my exposure setting so that I move my histogram over. And then, I think I've talked about this before, but I very, very rarely use the contrast slider instead, because what the contrast slider does is it just squashes everything in the middle and shoves it out to the edges. And I don't want to squash the middle. I want to raise my whites. And so I'm going to push that side of the histogram out, and then I'm going to decrease my blacks a little bit, not too much. Then I'm going to take my highlights down because I want to bring out some texture in the clouds. And then I'm going to take my shadows and I'm going to boost my shadows because I want to recover those shadows in the rocks. So it looks something like that. The brightness of this water, I'm not a big fan of, so I'm going to go in here and select a linear gradient. I'm going to take that linear gradient and drag it up. I'm going to bring it up above the water just a little bit. Actually, let's do this. Stretch it up, bring it down, and then I'm going to take my exposure and drop my exposure just a little bit. Drop my highlights a little bit. Drop the whites. And then I'm also going to go down here and I'm going to drop my texture. And I'm going to drop my clarity. Texture is just going to get rid of some of the sharp points of the waves. Clarity is going to reduce the contrast in the midtones, which is what most of those waves are. So, back into the normal stuff. Oh yeah, that horizon is not quite level. So I like to use the angle tool, the straighten tool, sorry, and just drag it across. Just the part that I know is straight, which is just that bit there. And that looks much better. Back here, I'm gonna add some texture. And that's looking pretty good. Tone curve, I have a tone curve preset in here that I like to use. And basically all it does is it's got the white point set up in the upper corner, but I've got the black point brought up off the bottom so that there's no true blacks in the image. Color grading, with this sunset and those bright yellows, I'm going to take the highlights and I'm going to push them just a little towards the yellowy orange. My shadows are going to come down into a cold blue, just barely. Detail, sharpening, I'm going to bring my sharpening down just a bit. Radius is going to go super small, detail up to 100, and masking, hold Alt and drag masking up until I'm not masking any noise, which is about right there. And that image looks to be almost finished. There's a tiny bit of cloud right here that's a bit distracting, so let's go in and remove that. So I'm on the remove tool, and so I'm just going to remove that. Click on remove. And back out, and that looks much better. So that would be the finished image there. Lots of yellows and oranges in the sunset like it was. I've recovered some detail in these rocks so we can see the rocks. Toned down the water a little bit because it was a little bright. And now we can see this small little sea stack in between these two large stacks. now let's take a look at one of these intentional camera movement images. So you can see, well, let's go through the process. Lens corrections, calibration, basic. You can look at the histogram up here, it's way over to the left. So bring the exposure up and bringing it into the center. And then take my whites, bring them up, my blacks, take them down quite a bit. I want to leave this really dark, leave the beach fairly dark. Highlights, we've got this large area in the center that I want to take down. And shadows I want to bring up because I want to capture some of this sand color. And that looks kind of good. Texture, I want to drop my texture down. It's an intentional camera movement image, so I don't want to add texture. I want to kind of smooth it out. So drop texture down, drop clarity, but I do want to increase my vibrance just a little. Vibrance hits those muted colors, and saturation is fine. Tone curve, add my tone curve to this. Color grading, same thing, sunset, so let's push those oranges and let's add some coolness to the blues. Detail, I'm going to remove all sharpening, so I don't need to sharpen an ICM image. And I think that looks fairly good. All right, finally I'm going to do this stationary image that's basically of the same scene. So if we look back and forth in the intentional camera movement, it's the beach down here. We've got this little promontory, we've got this rock. And if I go to the stationary image, we've got the promontory, got the rock, got the beach. So I'm going to cheat to get this started. And I'm going to hold down Shift, click on both, and I'm going to synchronize the two images, and that'll give me a really good starting point for this one, although it's a little bright. So we're going to bring the exposure down. Everything else looks all right. Highlights drop a little more. Shadows bring up just a little bit, so I like the texture in the beach here and these rocks, so I want to make sure I have that. But because it's not intentional camera movement, I'm going to take my texture, I'm going to bring my texture up. I want to enhance some of the interesting little movement in the waves. I want to enhance these little ridges in the sand, and the texture slider is going to allow me to do that. Bring clarity up just a little bit from where it was. Vibrance can stay the same. Saturation increase just slightly. Tone curve stays the same. Color grading stays the same. Detail, we're going to add just a little bit of sharpening, tiny radius, full detail, masking. Again, hold down Alt as you move the slider, and like when it's really low like this, if you look at all that noise being sharpened, it really doesn't do us any good. So push that slider up, get the noise gone, and now we're only sharpening what we really want to sharpen. So now just the edges of things are being sharpened instead of the edges of every pixel. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed the images. Let me know which one is your favorite down below in the comments. Do you like the intentional camera movement? Do you like the vibrant yellows of that sea stack image earlier in the, or do you like the more muted colors of the final image well after sunset? Again, let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate it. My name is James. This has been a video of a sunset at Matapawa Bay, and I would appreciate a like and a subscribe and maybe even a comment or two. We will see you in a couple of weeks in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.